disclaimers on slides 2 and 3 regarding forward-looking statements and scoping study results. So Rox has several advanced gold and nickel projects in Western Australia. The flagship project for the company is the UMA Gold Project, which we acquired in a series of joint ventures last year. The UMA Gold Project is located south of Sandstone in Western Australia, and Rox has in fact one of the largest land holdings in this area with a prospective strike length of 80 kilometres of shear zone. The project comes with an existing resource of 1.2 million ounces of gold in situ, including a near-surface free milling resource of 10 million tonnes at 1.65 for 533,000 ounces. Now, since Rox acquired the asset in the middle of last year, we've been drilling since July, and with a small break over the Christmas period, we're back out there in January. And our focus is very much on growing the near-surface free milling resource. And to that end, we've had some real exploration success recently at the high-grade Grace prospect. And some of the best intercepts from that prospect include 5 metres at 126 grams, 7 metres at 54.5 grams, 2 metres at 140 grams. So, you know, these results in terms of gram metres are some of the best results you're likely to see in the WA gold fields, and in fact compare pretty favourably on a global basis. Now, we've been drilling the Grace prospect flat out for the start of this year. We've got assays back for 31 of the holes that we've drilled, with 78 holes outstanding. Now, we've paused the drilling program in March due to the travel restrictions imposed by the state government due to the evolving COVID-19 pandemic, and we'll hopefully be back out there as soon as we possibly can be when travel restrictions are eased. But in the meantime, there's plenty of work for us to do on the Grace project prospects in terms of analysing the data that we do have, plus the outstanding results as they come in, and we'll be targeting an initial resource in mid-2020. Some of the other interesting events that have happened in recent times, apart from the Grace discovery, have been some recent merger and acquisition activity, which is really putting a highlight on the belt. We're very lucky to have the land holding that we do have, as you cannot get any new land in the belt anymore. And there's been several discoveries. So there's been Spectrum Metals discovering an extension to the historic Penny West mine, Penny North, which culminated in Spectrum being bid for by Ramelius in a $208 million scrip and cash takeover. So together with the Grace, the discovery of the Grace prospect, it's certainly a very hot belt, and really has been highlighted as a very prospective belt. Now, Rox also owns the advanced Fisher East nickel project, which has 78,000 tonnes of contained nickel metal in resource, and I will be talking about that in this presentation as well. So just turning to a little bit of Rox background corporately. So we have 1.45 billion shares on issue. We trade under the ticker RXL, and capped at around $32 million at present share prices of around 2.2 cents. We are well funded with 5.75 million in cash and receivables as at the end of March. A portion of that does relate to a deferred payment from Teck for the sale of a zinc asset that Rox, a transaction that Rox entered into a couple of years ago. So in terms of our asset overview and project overview, we're very much we're a gold and nickel company, UMA being the flagship. Our projects are all in Western Australia with low sovereign risk. We have commanding positions in the belts that we operate in, which gives us real upside leverage when we do discover deposits. And the other thing to note about these projects is that they're advanced. So there's historical production at UMA, and there's been a scoping study done at the Fisher East Nickel project. So very much advanced projects offering potential for cash flow and development and then cash flow. We like the mix of our projects. So gold, very much enjoying a solid price outlook and macro outlook at the moment. In the short and medium term, the Aussie dollar gold price is likely to be driven by a low interest rate environment and ongoing QE, as we're seeing with central banks around the world entering into new phases of QE, which is all very supportive for gold. And in the long term, we're fans of the nickel sector and the nickel price. The electric vehicle and battery thematic is very much yet to play out, and Rox is well positioned to take advantage of that. In terms of the team that we've got bringing these projects into fruition, I'm a geologist originally with finance, but spent most of my career in finance, and we have deep capital market connections and networks, and the Rox team has a good discovery track record. So we discovered Fisher East in 2012 and more recently Grace. So turning to the UME Gold project, UME is situated between Mount Magnet and Leinster in its own greenstone belt called the UME Greenstone Belt. The project was operated in between 1987 and 1997 when the gold price was around $400 an ounce, and it produced 670,000 ounces from a series of open pits and one underground mine, the UME main lode underground mine. There's been very limited exploration over the past 10 years, and due to a series of different owners controlling the project, but also when Gold Mines of Australia were running the project and the gold price was around $400 an ounce, the impetus to do exploration was very limited as that project was struggling for cash flow. So there's strong potential for resources in and around the historic pits to have economic prospects at the current gold price of $2,650, but there's also some real economic prospect at the Grace deposit, the new discovery. Now, just in terms of ownership, so we struck the acquisition of the UME Gold project in conjunction with our joint venture partner Venus. The deal is really structured in $3 million tranches. So $3 million to buy the project, $3 million to be spent in the ground, $2 million around the mine and $1 million regionally, and then an additional payment of $3 million to go to 70%, which can be done at our election on or before the 30th of June next year. And we're fully preparing to do that and looking forward to increasing our economic interest. So in terms of the site overview, this is an aerial photo looking at the main UME main pit, and there's a couple of highlights I'd like to point to. So the pit is about 1.2 kilometres long. The historic UME gold processing plant sits on the eastern side of that, or the right-hand side in this figure. There are two distinct rock types we can see in the pit. There's a yellowy greeny rock on the western side, or the left side, which is a weathered greenstone, and this has been the host to most of the gold mineralisation at UME historically. So the thinking was that the granite, which is the white rock on the right-hand side of the pit wall, or the eastern side, was very much the footwall and wasn't overly prospective. So it wasn't historically a focus for exploration. And we were in fact drilling to the south of the plant, drilling out a laterite deposit and a shallow laterite deposit, and discovered Grace. And also we've been expanding a deposit called Airstrip, which is just to the south of that. So in terms of the infrastructure that is on site, there is an old processing plant, 600,000 tonnes per annum throughput capacity, although that needs real money spent on it. There's estimates of between $14 and $25 million to refurb that plant. But more importantly, there are significant other pieces of infrastructure around that we can use to springboard ourselves into production. So tailings disposal facilities that that have capacity, mine offices, core shed, workshop, access roads, the airstrip, the bore field, the fact that the processed water we know can be used, the local water can be used for processed water without affecting the process too much. We've also got a huge historical database of drilling maps and plans, which is a real head start. So what you see with greenfield startups in the WA goldfields is around 60% of the overall cost might be the new plant, with about 40% just as a general rule, being roads, civils, and power lines and so forth. So we do have a real head start in terms of the infrastructure on site. In terms of the processing plant, the company's current thinking is that we would use bits of this, but not all of it, and it is probably in the wrong spot with the growth prospect striking towards that plant, and in fact probably underneath the plant. So looking at the UME regional setting, UME shear zone is a 150 kilometre long crustal scale shear zone, and we have a tenure that covers around 80 kilometres of that strike. So you can see on slide 11 in the aeromagnetic image the 80 kilometres of strike that we do hold. The shear zone runs from north to south in an arc up through the Penny West and Penny North gold deposits, which was discovered by Penny North being discovered by Spectrum, up around 25 kilometres further north of that into the UME mine area, which is the area where the UME shear zone separates, and you have a northwestern branch and a northeastern branch, and the mine area is covered by the red tenements called the OYG joint venture. So there's plenty of exploration upside and discovery potential along the belt. There's around, we hold in the joint ventures around 640 square kilometres of ground, and we have another 200 square kilometres of ground in our own right. So looking at that figure in a little bit more detail, turning to the exploration model, you can see here where the shear zone splits into the UME shear zone and the main lode shear zone. The granite that sits in the middle of those two shear zones, the UME granite, has undulations along its boundary, and that has created dilation zones, which enables gold mineralising fluids to move through that area. So we see gold mineralisation found in both the mafics and the granites, but we're having particular success obviously at Grace, which is a shear zone, quartz sericite shear zone in a granite. So we've been drilling the Grace deposit and the UME project since July last year. We were drilling a grid pattern of holes to the south of the plant, looking at a laterite deposit, and discovered the Grace prospect in November. So the northernmost line of holes there, MLRC020, returned 5 metres and 125 grams, and you can see in the slide 13 some of the visible gold specimens that we panned from those RC chips. So we then drilled underneath that initial hit in January, with results received in January, and you can see there RX RC135 drilling underneath that and returning 8 metres at almost 40 grams per tonne, and so the Grace lode dips down to the west, and in fact that hole also intersected a new lens, a hanging wall lens, which we've since been following up as well. Then moving forward to February and the results that we received then. So this is a cross section that's further north of the cross section shown in slide 14, and we've delineated 4 lenses in this area, and these lenses really they are high grade, above 30 gram meters, and plunge away to the north at around 35 degrees. These lenses are contained within in a mineralised envelope of around 0.5 gram per tonne. So moving forward to what we see now. So with the results and with the drilling that we've collated thus far, this is a long section. So this is looking to the east at Grace and at Airstrip. And you can see there that the north plunging high-grade shoots are starting to open up and form, and we believe they form quite a repeatable pattern. So the exploration model here is very much working. UME South potentially represents another one of these high-grade lenses. This also is near the intersection of the main lode shear zone and the UME fault. We look forward to following this up when we get back out there in the middle of the year. So turning to, so we've been discussing new mineralisation that we've been exploring at UME, and that's very much our focus, and where we can see we can add significantly to the 530,000 ounce resource that's currently in place. However, recently we've also been looking at some of the historical resources at UME. So the resource at UME is divided into two parts: near surface, shallow free milling ore that occurs down to around 120 metres, and then a deeper ore body that's associated with sulfides with a mineral called arsenopyrite. And this ore body is significant. It is partially refractory. Around 53% of the gold is contained within arsenopyrite. And so it's something that we haven't made a focus internally up until recently. And there are several transactions that some of which have been made public, such as the Black and Polymetal offtake agreement, that indicate that the market for gold concentrates has really developed over recent times. So with sulfide ore, there's two things you can do. You could either put in a BACOX or a BIOX plant at UME, which was historically the case, and convert that sulfide ore into an oxidized form and then make gold from that. Or you can concentrate that sulfide material into a sulfide concentrate and then sell that to an offtake partner. And there are companies such as Polymetal which are very active in the space presently, having developed new large big pressure oxidation mills in Russia and in Europe. So just interestingly on the UME deeps, look, some of the highlights: the ore body is at 900 metres and extends and is still open, with hits at depths, going up to 27 grams per tonne, which is pretty spectacular. So this indicates that the plumbing system, the mineralising system at UME is deep and is significant, and this has implications for things like exploration at Grace. It'd be fantastic if that could extend down to 900 metres, but there's no reason why it couldn't. But it also at those grades at UME deeps means that there is actually a hell of a lot of value in that gold. So there's around 658,000 ounces at 8.5 grams there. So in today's gold price, that's worth around $1.9 billion. And given a $12 million potential capital cost for reopening and dewatering the underground mine, that starts to look pretty attractive at today's prices. So in terms of UME and our plan going forward, the drill out of the Grace prospect has been done as far as we can for the minute. We've still got 78 holes to come, and so we'll be going through that data and doing a lot of project evaluation throughout April. We then hope to be out there diamond drilling in May to complete metallurgical test work and ore characterisation. The initial leach well work that we've done on Grace suggests that it's free milling and plus 97% recovery. But as a check to that, we also want to do diamond drilling to confirm what we believe to be the metallurgy there. And then in June or around the middle of this year, we'll be looking at a maiden resource for Grace, and then having concept studies and scoping studies from that resource. In the middle of the year, we'll also be drilling our regional tenure with Aircore to do a scout program. So turning to Mount Fisher, Rox's tenure at Mount Fisher is around 1,100 square kilometres, so a very significant land holding. The Mount Fisher belt is a greenstone belt that is around 150 kilometres east of Wiluna. Rox made a significant discovery here in 2012, and I've listed some of the better intersections on slide 20. So there's the high grade massive sulfide that we see at Fisher East, is very high tenor. So some of the better results there, 8.5% nickel, including 2 at 14.7 and 5 metres at 8.4% nickel, are very good nickel grades in anybody's language. So Rox has about 80 kilometres strike length of the prospective horizon here, and the deposits that we've delineated here, 3 deposits, are around are situated on about 3 kilometres of that 80 kilometres. So the geological framework of the Mount Fisher belt is really that it's an Archean greenstone belt to the east of the Norseman, Wiluna and Yandal belts in Western Australia. And these are host to some of the largest nickel and gold deposits globally. And there's no reason why Mount Fisher greenstone belt can't host similar deposits given its similar age and metamorphic grade. We mainly see the nickel deposits on the eastern side of the belt in the ultramafic. These nickel deposits are ultramafic komatiite flow-related deposits, much like, say, Kambalda. And then on the western side of the belt, that ultramafic is sheared away, and that shear zone has probably introduced gold mineralising fluids because we see large gold anomalies on the western side of the belt. So we're following up a 10-kilometre long, 1 gram per tonne a gold anomaly at Mount Fisher as well. So looking at the Fisher East resources, they're across 3 deposits: Musket, Cannonball, and Camelwood. The deposits start from surface and plunge away to the north. There's some very high-grade parts of those deposits. So you can see from slide 22 that there are significant areas where there's greater than 22.5% nickel, which is pretty spectacular. These flows and lenses are open at depth. There's EM conductors below them. However, at the depth that we're talking, which is around 500 metres vertically, we're starting to be having to drill 700-metre deep diamond holes, which gets expensive for a company of Rox's size. So the cheapest and easiest way for us to grow the nickel tonnage here is to look along strike, which is what we're doing. So these deposits really occur in a 3-kilometre window of the 80-kilometre strike. There has been an economic plan wrapped around Fisher East previously, and this was last updated in 2018. We could look at building a concentrator on site at Fisher East, or we could truck ore to a nearby plant, the Toll Mill case. Now, this would most sensibly go to Leinster nickel operation of BHP Nickel West, and we have previously been in discussions with them. We could also look at going to other plants that are opening up in the area, such as the refurb Cosmos plant. The project itself, on the economic study that was completed, showed annual production of 7,300 tonnes of nickel in concentrate over 6 years. It's probably a little bit on the small side, hence we're exploring hard to try and lift that overall tonnage. So the key points to watch for Mount Fisher are that we are exploring our large land holding. We've completed BTEM surveys and Aircore drilling on regional targets recently. We're evaluating that data now, and then in the second half we'll be out there RC drilling to add to the resource position, and we'll be re-engaging with potential offtake partners. So in conclusion, the gold sector is enjoying strong prices, which we expect to continue given the low interest rate environment globally and QE. The nickel price is expected to recover in the medium term as the EV and battery thematic plays out, and we're leveraged to that as well. But looking at what we can control and what we are doing, the recent discovery of the Grace prospect at UME has significantly enhanced our overall portfolio and significantly enhanced that project. So we look forward to further success there. In terms of our exploration philosophy, we are actively exploring our properties, and we have commanding positions in those belts. So when we do discover deposits, we have leverage to the upside. Our programs are well funded for the minute. We have 5.75 million in cash and receivables. Like all explorers and developers, yes, we will be capital market dependent at some point, but there are no immediate plans to do anything. And the company's management team is committed to delivering on the milestones as we've outlined, and we look forward to keeping you updated in due course. So with that, I'm just going to check for any questions that might have been handed in. So I've had a couple of questions come through, and I'll run through some of the answers to these now. So we have quoted a near surface resource. Can we please define what is open cut and underground? The near surface resource is down to 120 metres at UME, and below that is defined as deep. There's a natural metallurgical change at around that depth. What's the status of the old plant? Is another question. The plant is just about anything that moves in the plant is unserviceable. And hasn't been well maintained, but there are parts of the plant such as ball mill shells and other long lead time items that we can reuse. So we would be looking at reusing as much of that plant as we possibly as we could. Where is the nearest toll milling operation? And could we look at toll milling Grace? The nearest toll milling operations are the Kirkalocka plant, the Mountain Magnet plant, and the Goldfields plant at Agnew would be the three main ones. It probably makes the most sense to go to somewhere like Ramelius's Mount Magnet plant, particularly given that they would be driving trucks with Spectrum or Penny West or straight past the UME gate. We haven't commenced any negotiations. We're still busy drilling out Grace, to understand what's there. Is there refractory ore in the new resources at Grace and Airstrip? Not to our knowledge, no. The initial metallurgical test work has shown that it's free milling. What may be an estimated timeline to get into production? Well, Grace is shallow and it's high grade, so and it sits on a granted mining lease. So that means that permitting and starting is quite easy, and it's about us working out what's there and what the economics look like. And I'll just have a look for any further questions. What's my opinion on the Ramelius takeover? Well, I think it underpins the valuations in the belt. I think that with Ramelius, the high-grade Vivian deposit at Leinster coming to the end of its life next year, the Mount Magnet plant obviously needed to supplement its high-grade feed, and the Penny North deposit was a good way of doing that. When can we expect further exploration results from the Grace prospect? Well, we have results coming in. We have results coming in intermittently. and we need to interpret those and work on those, and then we'll be releasing them as soon as we possibly can. We are still waiting on above 70 holes to come in, so yes, there should be lots of good news to come. There is talk of a small plant to get the Grace shallow deposit up and running. How big could this be, and what would the cost be? Well, we're still working out how big Grace could be, but there is a natural size of around 250,000 tonnes per annum for semi-modular plants, where the capital cost and the operating costs are quite effective. A couple of the other questions regarding M&A activity that I'm not going to talk to. What is the timing of the $3.75 million receivable and its conditions? So it's an unconditional receivable. It's due on the earlier of February 2023, or a decision to mine the Tina Zinc project, and we expect the earlier milestone will be February 2023, and that's completely unconditional from Teck. It just needs the time to run down. So with that, I think we've done all the questions. So thank you for your time, and we look forward to keeping you up to date on all the developments at Rox. Thank you all, and have a great day.